Hi, I'm Wendy.
And hi, I'm Phil, and we're part of the shift team at Burley.
We're in the middle of a major renovation of our house. We're going to be sharing a little bit of our renovation journey alongside exploring our new shift theme, Extreme Makeover Heart Edition.
Take me, make me all you want me to be. That's all I'm asking, all I'm asking. Come inside this heart of mine, it's not my own. Make it home. Come and take this heart and make it all your own. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, let me take you round the boundary of our property. At the back we've got fences that border our neighbours' gardens, and then round the bottom end we have a large hedge. Around here we have lots and lots of interesting shrubs, trees, all sorts of different things that actually form the boundary of the property. Lots of different colours, different shrubs. We find something new every day. Lots of colours, lots of flowers. And then as we come to the other part of the garden, we've got this large hedge, which is a real bonus as it shields us from the roads and traffic, which is lovely. And then at the top of the garden we have roses, lots of different rose bushes, some wild ones, some really small ones, but they're just coming into flower now, which is really lovely. So that's the boundary of our garden, and of course the important boundary of your property, your house, are the walls. As you can see, we're having lots of work done on the walls. We've had the soffits done and we're waiting for the gutters, and it's really important that you make sure that your boundaries, your walls, are stable, they are secure. I'm going to take you inside now. Then we come around to the property itself. As you can see, we've got lots of scaffolding up at the moment to make sure that the roof is right, the fascia boards are right, the gutters, when they go on, will be right. It's really important to make sure the fabric of your boundary, your property, is okay, and it keeps you safe, it keeps out the elements. It's important to have boundaries to keep you safe. Keep people out unless they're invited in, of course. To protect you from the elements, the wind, the rain, the sun, the cold. Boundaries define what belongs to us. When your walls are not complete, or you have a break in your walls, floors, roof, you can feel vulnerable, scared, on high alert, under pressure, insecure. The temporary boards forming the boundary in our main room were not the most secure, and it often made me feel anxious, especially when it was windy and wet. Thankfully, we have not had many days like that since we started the actual renovation. As you come inside, you can see that we're in one big room. This is the outside of our property from the back. It's a temporary boundary, but we hope certainly by the time that you watch this, we will have some lovely doors in there. But there used to be a wall here where I'm standing now, and we took that out. And here's the RSJ that's holding up the rest of the walls upstairs. You can take walls down and you can create walls. Here are the walls that we have created in our what will be our utility room. So new walls, old walls, new walls. Then upstairs, this space here was the house bathroom, which we have now taken out. We've created a large landing area, study area. But as you come forward, again we have created more walls for the bathroom. An opening here into the main bedroom. The way you used to come into this room was through an opening which was here. That wall's gone, that doorway has gone, and we've got a wall, and now here is our doorway. It reminds me of the verse that says, as one door closes, another door opens. But we have created walls in this room as well. We've spent a lot of time getting the foundations right in our house. The walls, the windows, the roof, the gutters, the things that protect us from outside elements. And as we've seen, walls can come down and walls can be built up. We need to have boundaries for our property, and likewise we need to put in place boundaries for our lives. But what do I mean by that? Are you the person who finds it hard to say no to someone who has asked you to do something for them? Who finds themselves doing stuff for others all day long, and by the time it gets to doing something for you, it's the end of the day, it's too late and you're too tired. Your time is taken up day by day, week by week, with stuff that does not bring you joy. It may even bring you resentment. You are the steward of your own life, and you need to take responsibility for it, for the good and the not so good. Setting good boundaries for your life is essential. Good boundaries will free you and take you from an overwhelmed, stressed out and exhausted person to someone who trusts themselves, is decisive and is committed to healthy relationships. Our boundaries are important as they set the rules of how we want to be treated. Boundaries are the basic instructions we create to establish how others should behave around us. And by setting good boundaries, we tell people how we want them to treat us in a mutually respectful, appropriate and caring way. As we've seen, your walls, hedges, fences and doors define the boundary of your property, what belongs to you and within your property. Similarly, you need to define the boundaries to your life, where you start and where you end, and when someone else starts. Be clear on what your responsibilities are, who is in control of what. Be responsible for what you can control, your behaviours, your emotions, your attitudes, your belief systems. We are responsible to others and for ourselves. We can carry our own loads, our responsibilities that only we can carry. We'll call them pebbles. And now and again we will have burdens that weigh us down, our boulders, and we need help with those boulders. We can help those whose loads or burdens are too much for them, those that don't have the strength or resources to carry the load, the pebbles or the boulders. This is being responsible too. The problem arises when people act as if their boulders are daily loads and refuse help, or when people act as if their daily loads are boulders they shouldn't need to carry and try to pass the problem or the boulders on to you. We all have different physical and emotional needs which deserve to be met. Some of those we can meet ourselves, and others are met by the people we have relationships with. Setting good boundaries helps us assert our needs, especially when we are asking others to treat us in a particular way. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need, but make sure you explain your boundaries too. If we don't have good boundaries and people are relentlessly taking advantage of us, we become resentful and angry with ourselves for being so passive. When we set healthy boundaries and we communicate our expectations and needs clearly to people, we are less likely to be bitter and resentful. Our most precious commodities are our time and energy, and therefore we need to use both wisely and to the greatest effect. Retaining our energy and focusing on the things that matter, rather than spending energy on things we don't want to do or feel obliged to do, are key to ensuring good boundaries. We need to make sure we are not spending our time looking after everyone else but ourselves. Spend time on doing the things that nourish you and bring joy to your days. Boundaries help us mark our property so that we can take care of it. We need to keep these things that will nurture us inside our fences and keep the things that will harm us outside. However, our walls need to be permeable in some way so that good can come in and any bad within us can be let out. We need gates or doors. When the good is on the outside, we need to open our gates and let it in. Other people will have good things to give us, and we need to open up to them. Our boundaries guard our treasures and our riches. In Matthew chapter 6 verse 21 it says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it, is written in Proverbs 4:23. Guard your heart can be looked on as your values, your thoughts, your emotions, your passions, your weaknesses, your history, your strengths, according to Dr. John Townsend, who co-wrote the book Boundaries with Dr. Henry Cloud. If you've never read it, then I really recommend it. These things are within our boundary, and we can deal with them, our feelings, our attitudes and our beliefs, our behaviours, the choices we make, our values, our talents, our limits, our thoughts and desires, and our love. Our ability to give and respond to love is our greatest gift. Our heart is the centre of our being. The heart's ability to open up to love and let it flow, both inward and outward, are crucial to life. The Bible is clear about both functions of the heart, the receiving of grace and the flow of love, both inward and outward. In Matthew 22, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Love your neighbour as yourself tells us how we should love. And in Corinthians, Paul tells the people to open wide your hearts. We need to take responsibility for this loving function of ourselves and use it. Setting good, healthy boundaries can free you from shame and self-doubt, from emotional abuse, verbal attacks, and being manipulated sometimes by those nearest and dearest to you. Good boundaries offer a sense of peace and tranquility, a place of safety. One of the hardest boundaries to form are with those closest to us, our family, spouse, children, work colleagues. How many times has someone made you feel guilty over something you have done or not done, or something you've said? But when you look at the situation, the problem doesn't actually lie with you, but with them. It's because they are not letting you set your own boundaries. They are putting their problems, their feelings, their boulders on you, and pushing the blame your way. When you recognise that and know that it is not you, you can build your boundary and feel guiltless and at peace that you have done the right thing for you. This may seem heartless and without compassion, but you need to be honest about how you feel, how you are made to feel. A good tip to help you deal with family conflicts is to respond and not react. If you react to something that someone says or does, it might mean you have a boundary problem. If someone is able to cause havoc in your life by doing or saying something, they are in control of you at that point, and you've lost your boundary. By responding, you remain in control and have choices and options. If you feel yourself about to react, take a step back, regain control of yourself, and choose the best option. When you react, they are in control. When you respond, you are. It's sometimes difficult to say no, especially if we are afraid of losing the relationship, are afraid of creating conflict, or afraid of feeling guilty. But we need to learn to say no to some good things to be able to focus our time doing the best things. By having the tough talks and confronting people, we put ourselves back in control of our life and set our boundaries. When one door closes and another opens, God is saying no to the first doorway, but always lets us know that there is another path, another doorway to better things. The Bible is a living book about relationships, relationship of God to people, people to God, and people to people. The entire scriptures communicate a message of love. Love God and love your neighbour. But that's hard, and one of the reasons it is so hard is because we have no boundaries. We have no idea where our responsibilities lie. We don't know where we end and someone else starts, or where God ends and we begin. The Bible clarifies those boundaries so that we can begin to see who should do what in this labour of love. God wants us to have a great life, free from burden, shame, guilt, and by setting our boundaries and respecting the boundaries of others, we are making the right choices. Choices that gladden our hearts and are a joy to God.
Your grace is enough, more than I need. At your word I will believe. I wait for you, draw near again. Let your spirit make me new.
love, poured out for all reasons.